Welcome to By the Numbers. This is a new program that's going to focus on a major issue that resonates with town officials in both communities, Whitman and Hanson. It'll also be something that a lot of folks, whether they're homeowners, parents, educators, or even those folks who are on social media who like to discuss everything in regard, especially the groups, the Facebook groups themselves. And we're not just here to talk about budgets, municipal budgets, but school budgets, department budgets, and coming up soon, the state will be deciding the fiscal 2020 budget, of course, starting with the governor's budget, right down to the House and Senate budget before they try to put all of them together and sign it into law before July 1st. Now, the mission of this show that you're watching is to sit down with local stakeholders and get their thoughts and concerns on the town's finances and the picture moving forward, get a perspective of the process and where they stand in different areas. Now, today we're fortunate to have a gentleman who is a long-serving member on the Whitman Board of Selectmen and serves on various committees as well as an extension of the Board of Selectmen. We have Mr. Dan Salvucci.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Kevin.
Thank you for being here today, sir.
Absolutely, always here.
Probably should start right out by asking, what made you throw your hat in the ring long ago and want to run for a town office?
Well, back in the 90s, I moved here in 77, but back in the 90s, I was asked to join the Finance Committee because of the fact that I did budgets and ran departments for Star Market, who I was employed by for 41 years. And they kept asking me if I'd been on the Finance Committee, and I really wasn't really interested in doing that. I had enough responsibility at work. And then as time went on, and once I started going to town meetings, and I would get up and I'd speak about the budget and budget line items and discussing it. And then I think Mr. Hayes was our town moderator at the time, and he kept on asking me. Well, finally I said, well, why not? And after a town meeting, he asked me again. I says, I think so. He says, let's go put a letter together of request so I can appoint you. And that was, I believe, in 93 maybe? I don't know. It was a long time ago. And I served on the Finance Committee for about 5 or 6 years. I was on it for 2 years, and I became chairman. And I was on chairman for a while, maybe 3 or 4 years. And then I started looking at other issues on how I felt that the Board of Selectmen needed to be a little bit stronger on different budget issues or different town issues. And I said, well, why don't I run for selectman? And I did the very first year. I didn't win. And I think I was told because they didn't want me to leave the Finance Committee. So I ended up quitting the Finance Committee, rerunning, and then I won. And if you remember way back then, I won by 1 vote. Right? Everyone assumed that I was going to win. I won by 1 vote. There was a recount. My brother was on my committee to look at it, and he found a person who filled in my name, erased it, and filled in my opponent's name, and didn't erase them both properly or do it both properly, so it kicked out the ballot. I agreed it went to my opponent, which made us a tie. So we had another election. I ended up winning by like 250 votes. Everyone assumed I was going to win, so it was a very low turnout. After I told everyone every vote counts is the way I always say it, and they came, and I won by about 250 votes. And I was on the Board of Selectmen for a couple of years. I became chairman. Then I was on chairman for a while, and then Carl was on our board, and we made him chairman and me vice chairman. And
Carl
Kowalski. And it's been like that for 10 years now, at least 10 years. And our board works very well together. So that's, my way of, getting into town politics and trying to help the community that I live in, that I raise my children in.
Okay. It seems like every year, at least for the past 5 to 7 years, residents are told, it's almost like a disclaimer at the start of town meeting that revenue, that there's a lack of revenue that's been generated on the part of the town. The state is not giving the town its fair share of local aid. in your opinion, not only in the position that you're in, but in your opinion, is that the truest statement?
Well, it's kind of tough. State has so much money, just like the town. They have a lot of people digging into this one large bowl of cash. And could the state do more? Possibly. But do they have the revenues to do more? Probably not. It's just like the town. We're a bedroom community. We don't have a Route 3. We have a Route 18, but not very large businesses. We don't have an industrial park like the Hanover or Norwell. We have a Stop and Shop and a CVS and a Walgreens for some big things. And we have some restaurants and mostly auto dealerships. And we have a great center of town, probably the best center of town around. But they're all small business. They're not big multi-companies, right? So consequently, our monies that we get from business is not like what we would have gotten if we had a, South Shore Plaza or a Hingham Plaza or whatever. So it relies on the small businessman and the homeowner. So what we end up doing is we do a factor of one, which means that the homeowner and the business are charged the same rate for taxes. Because if we change it, we're just going to throw business away. They're going to leave.
If I could kind of jump on that point real quick, and that is, I've heard rumblings that there has been talk of possibly changing that. Have you heard anything similar? And if so, if there was a conversation, what's your thoughts on changing it?
My thought is I would never change it.
Remember, you're a vote of one.
I'm a vote of one, right. And I look at it this way. You have the homeowner and you have the businessman, right? Now, if we turn around and change that and we make it very difficult on the business because of the fact that we want to take the pressure off the homeowner, what do? We are forcing business out of town. It's wrong. We don't, as I say, we don't have Stop and Shop, CVS, and Walgreens are the three biggest businesses that we have basically in town. Would we lose them? Probably not. But then we have other small town business. Would we lose them? I think so. And there's no way I'm going to do that. At least not for my vote. I think that what we've been doing as a town on a factor of one, meaning the homeowner and the business, get taxed at the same rate, is perfect for a bedroom community. My thoughts.
At this moment, Whitman is facing a sizable deficit for the fiscal 2020 budget. Are officials doing enough to tackle the issue and also being transparent about the situation too?
Right. Well, again, transparent. There's so much money in the pot, right? So you have businesses bringing in money, taxes bringing in money, and any revenues that we receive, whether the ambulance fund or whatever, that goes into the pot, and it's earmarked for certain areas. The ambulance fund is earmarked for the fire department. The fine account is earmarked for the police department, right? That being said, so we have small fees that we get, marriage licenses or different things like that.
Licenses.
Right, like different types of licenses. We have automobile, when you buy a new car. Excise tax, that comes into the town. And real estate tax. That's all we can live on, that small amount. And so it's on the homeowner. So what we have to do is we either help the homeowner one way or another. And there are certain things that we can do in Whitman that helps the homeowner, such as seniors can work for 100 hours and get, I think, $1,000 off the tax rate. We have a senior discount for water and sewer. And starting next year, I posed that to our board and they agreed. Starting in 2020, there'll be a $20 or $25 discount for seniors on our trash fee. It helps the seniors, right? So basically we're doing that to help the seniors. But there's not a lot of revenue coming into the town of Whitman. And being like that, if there's no revenue, we have problems like other big towns. Same thing. We had to build a new police station, right? One time we had to build a new library. We have a new high school. We had to renovate the other schools.
Sure.
Right?
But most of those projects, you did it via a debt exclusion. I think
Right.
the one exception was a number of years back,
Police
around
station.
2010. The police station, the town hall project, and the fire station
Exactly.
were all done under the levy limit. That was a rare thing, that how it was done.
Right. And that time, I think I was chairman of the board of the selectmen at the time. Bill Capozzi was chairman of the finance committee, and Frank Lanham was our town administrator. The three of us called, we had meetings with every single department head in the town of Whitman, explaining what we wanted to do. We didn't think at the time that the taxpayers wanted to do a debt exclusion for a new police station. We needed a police station so bad. The old police station behind Town Hall was getting ready to be closed. The state could have come in and said, I'm sorry, you can't use this anymore, right? They did it to, I believe they did it to Rockland, right? And they built a new one. We didn't want that to happen to us, so we wanted to jump on the issue. So what we did was we put out there an RFP to find out what we needed in town. Police station was on the list, DPW was on the list, senior center was on the list, you know, renovations to the library, everything that we needed, and we thought that the police station was the primary thing we had to deal with. That being said, we looked at the cost and what it was going to cost, and we said, taxpayers aren't going to go for this, right? So we said, well, how about if we do it in the levy limit? We have X amount of dollars of free cash coming in, and maybe we can use that. So we ran the numbers, and we turned around and we met with every certain department, every single department head, and we said, look, this is what we want to get done. Are you on board? Which means you'll have to control your budget. It's that simple, right? Of course, the police department were on board, and the fire department were on board because they were part of the project, and the town hall workers, part of the project, right? And they agreed, we will control our budgets. And we were able, it's been what, 10 years now, and we've been able to pay, it's around $900,000, I think, for those projects. I think it was a $10 million project, I think, a bond. And we've been doing it within the levy limit by using free cash. Now the fact that we have other projects that need to get done, and the cost of running the town has increased so much, now they're looking at, do we do a debt exclusion for the remaining amount of what we owe on that project, right? And use the free cash for other capital projects. I have to really think about this because we promised the people we're going to keep it within the levy limit, right?
But the thing about this, and I think it bears, you look a couple of years ago when Whitman Fire Chief Tim Greno went to the people to do a Prop 2.5 override to be able to add personnel to the shifts. For the longest times, for 50 years, it was a 5-man shift. I thought it was a 4-man shift, and they wanted to increase it to 5.
No, well, yeah, but then
regardless, the idea was to add a person per shift.
It's now a 6-man shift.
So have extra personnel on duty, and folks were interested in doing a Prop 2.5 override with a debt exclusion, and I think there's a lot of confusion about a debt exclusion because it is a Prop 2.5 override per se, but it's something that goes away after a certain amount of time. So if you bond it for 20 years, that'll come off the books in 20 years, and it's no longer a part of taxing the public. Right.
Now, way back when we redid the town hall, the inner part of the town hall, 19, 20 years ago, right? And we added to the fire station. We redid the fire station, added it in the back for the ambulances, right? There was a bond that's ending, and out of the ambulance fund, the chief was giving $100,000 out of the ambulance fund to offset the fire station's portion of that. That's ending. So there's $100,000 that the fire department will have in their ambulance fund to handle some of their issues, which is good.
Right.
I think this is the last year, so that should be good. We need a new DPW. We've looked at that.
I think there's been several attempts to try different. There was the old auto lines up on 18. The thought was maybe just building a portion, or even just refurbishing, and residents weren't necessarily on board for it.
No, because the street right behind it. Where it is now, people are comfortable with it, right? And it works. So it's whether or not we redo the front building and the back building, right?
Right.
Town Hall approved it overwhelmingly. We went to the ballot. It was a no.
Failed, right?
It failed. And I was really so disappointed because our DPW is just falling apart. It's the last.
The building is.
The building,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
excuse me. The building is, right? It was built to what, 55?
Sure.
Right, 1955. And the front building is the original. Upstairs had a fire in it
Yep.
in the old days and stuff. And it's just, and the building in the back is rotting. But anyways, we'll deal with that. So that's one of the pros of, we'll say, taking the original police station, fire station, town hall project out of, and doing a debt exclusion to pay the remaining amount. I think there may be like 10 years left on it.
Okay.
Using the free cash to go out and bond for capital projects. You know, we usually end up having like $900,000, $1 million in free cash on a yearly basis. Hopefully that keeps going that way, right? But if we have that amount of money, maybe we can build a new DPW, use it for that, or trucks, or cars, or whatever. If we need new fire trucks, it's taken out of the ambulance account. If we need new cruisers, some of it's taken out of the fine account, and the rest is raised and appropriated. We may be able to use it for that. So it would take the pressure off the levy limit for departments, for payroll, and for expenses, and everything else other than capital projects. And we could maybe live within the levy limit. It's one way of looking at it, but I have to really think about it before what I decide. And you know, and I think I would vote to put it on a ballot and let the people of Whitman decide if that's how they want to do it.
Okay.
Their call.
And just to folks know, I mean, we typically try to keep these programs within about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We're just beyond the halfway point of our conversation. But this conversation's going so well, I kind of foresee we might go a little bit longer into overtime, so to speak, because we are kind of getting to the nuts and bolts in regards to budget, talking budgets. When it comes to municipalities, one of the biggest part of the budget is schools, education, a larger portion. Knowing that the shared district, it's not as big as most communities, but it's still a significant piece of the pie. I know the past couple of years, the school's annual assessment to the towns has increased. In your opinion, what needs to be done to be able to successfully satisfy their annual requests, but not necessarily sacrificing monies to give to other town departments?
Right. I think first of all, I think the state has to look at what they're doing and what they're asking for our school departments to do. We've heard of unfunded mandates.
I have.
Right? We just had a conference this weekend. I talked about that.
The MMA?
MMA. I talked about that, how the state needs to look at unfunded mandates. And the state shouldn't look at them. What they should do is form a committee, right? Not with senators and representatives. They need to have members of, we'll say, superintendents and teachers to tell them exactly what is correct or what is needed in the school system and what is not needed. And if it's needed, and it seemed that it's needed, then the state should say, okay, this is what we want to be done, then we'll pay for it. But there's also federal mandates, which I find kind of disappointing, because a federal mandate, what may work in Arizona or Idaho or Utah may not work in Massachusetts, and vice versa. I think the federal government has to get out of education, and I think it needs to be the state, and I think it needs to be the teachers and the superintendents who run the school telling the state, this is what it takes to run our children.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be like all Whitman Hanson's idea, teachers. You'd have 361 cities and towns, right? There aren't that many school systems. But I think that's one of the issues. And I think also each town, and I'll say Whitman Hanson, they need to look at their budget. Now, I do South Shore VOTEC. I'm on the school committee.
If I can ask you, how valuable of an experience has that been to be on that school committee?
Unbelievable, because of the fact that we approach our budget in a different way.
Zero-based budgeting.
Zero-based budgeting. Tom Hickey is our superintendent.
Explain what zero, because folks may not know what that term means.
Zero-based budget means you start exactly with zero, right? And then you see...
you justify every dollar.
Every single dollar. First of all, you justify your payroll. It is what it is, right?
You're projecting for
You're
the next
projecting,
year.
right? You project your expenses as far as fuel for the building. Now it's funny, we have gas and diesels and
Propane.
oil. No. For the school, building the school, we have
Oh,
gas.
right.
And we have.
I'm thinking
fuel.
buses. Your buses
right.
are propane, right?
And so if gas is least expensive, we heat the school.
Natural
Flip
gas.
of a switch, natural gas.
Yeah.
If oil is cheaper, we go to oil. So we save money. We also save on electricity because we are have a contract with I think it's Situate has the solar fields. It's either Situate or Cohasset has the solar fields.
Right.
And we save about $50,000 a year on electricity because we pay
Like
them
an
a-
energy bank or
right,
something, right?
Right, and we pay a lower rate.
Yep.
This is what we do. We run South Shore Votech like a business, and this is what we do to keep costs down, right? Our payroll, I'm on the negotiating team. Our payroll is not that, very inexpensive as far as the salaries. I mean, we're up to date on the salaries, but we don't have steps and to that. We have COLAs, that's it. They're at a certain stage. We don't have different steps, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We don't have that. We have one step. What your degree is, you get a COLA on that. And it saves on payroll.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that this budget methodology that South Shore Votech utilizes is something that the Whitman Town departments or even the regional school district here in the Whitman-Hanson area should consider looking
Yeah.
as a way to better build a budget?
Yeah, I think because you needed it last year doesn't mean that you need it this year, right? So I think it's each department head should look at it. The only thing that is solid is payroll and your expenses, right? Gas, electric, whatever, right? Those are you can control them by conserving.
To a degree, right?
Right? Payroll, you have the raises, but you can control it by being a manager and running your department.
Right.
Right? Lessening overtime, when possible. Right? And as I said, 41 years, 35, 36 years in management, I ran payroll for all those years, controlling expenses. That's what I had to do.
But the tough ones to control or at least try to be able to contain health care,
Right.
other post-employment benefits, OPEB,
Right.
and retirement.
Right. You can control that by putting so much into your OPEB fund, right? Just adding to it.
Right.
That's something the state's never going to catch up to it, right? Controlling as far as electricity and stuff. What we had done at our Star Market warehouse at the time, when somebody was selecting in the aisle, selecting product, send to the store, if nobody was in that aisle for 3 to 4 minutes, the lights would go out. And as soon as somebody stepped into that aisle, it's almost like you'd have in front of your house, you drive into your driveway, your light goes on. Your outside light doesn't stay on all the time. So that's one way of controlling expenses. Maybe someone leaves a room and forgets to shut the light off at the fire station or the police station or at school, right? Maybe that's what we need to do, things like that to control it. Different type of lights that we're doing for the town. We're starting with all the lights in town to get out. We're trying to expand our lights with more lights but less energy, right? And we may be able to save maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year in our lights. These are things that we're doing in the town to save, and that's what you have to go. I mean, just because it was an expense and you have to put it on the record, on the budget, doesn't mean you can't find a way of lessening that expense. So we got to look at things like that.
All right, I'm going to ask you to take your selectman's hat off.
Okay.
And put your Joe Citizen, your taxpayer hat on. Do you feel that the town has the type of leadership it needs to endure and solve a budget crisis?
Yes. I think first of all, our finance committee is great. Rick Anderson's doing a great job. All right. We had a meeting last week, and he spelled out the nuts and bolts and what's going on. Our board is a conservative board. We're not spend crazy. We listen to the finance committee. If we have to make hard decisions, we make hard decisions. But I think we have the board to be able to do it. But no matter who you have sitting on the finance committee or sitting on the board of selectmen or any other elected position in town, the DPW commissioners, they have to make decisions.
Sure.
If you don't have that pot of cash coming in the front door, you don't have the money to go out to the back door. So, I mean, it's that simple. We don't have the industry, so we have to be very conservative. And I think it's upon our department heads to really look at how they're managing their departments and maybe taking some risks, you know? Cutting down on maybe overtime and saying, well, I usually have somebody come in to cover this shift. Do I really, you know, look at the numbers, it's really, you know, am I taking a chance? Yes. Some department heads don't want to do that. You know, it's, you know, I need 5 people to, on an election, you know, we'll say, you know, can I get away with 4? You know, and things like that.
Okay.
You know, it's that simple.
We're close to wrapping up, but I warned you a few minutes ago, we're probably going to tend to go a little bit long with this segment with just a couple more questions, and I think I want to kind of jump back into last summer. There was a stakeholders meeting. There was a conversation. There was some folks brought in from Bridgewater State University. The idea was to put together a questionnaire for residents to kind of discuss, to give their thoughts on what they want to see from their town, especially when it comes to finances moving forward. Did you have a chance to complete the questionnaire?
Yes, I did.
And what was your thought of the final product?
Okay. I like the final product. We had a big meeting on it, and we had some suggestions. The schools were there, all the schools were there. And we had some good questions asked. I did mine online. I had one mailed to me. I had my wife do that one.
Okay.
I says, yeah, you fill this out. She fills it out. I don't look at what she puts. I don't know what she wrote. I mean, after 41 years, you know, I let her do her thing, right? Same thing. I never ask her who she votes for, except for me, you know. But that being said, I am very interested on the outcome. I want to see what the people of Whitman are looking for. I mean, I think we need a new DPW. That was one of the things that I thought as far as any infrastructure that we need to be done. And I said, yes, I would think that we need a DPW before any other project.
So that's what you're hoping that comes from the survey, is that'll be the top priority.
Right. Okay. I think we need streets as far as plowing and repairs, Chapter 90 money, repairs on streets. We have, I mean, my street, you know, I mean, it's got holes. They come and they patch them, but they don't last that long. The streets need to be done, but it costs a lot of money. But I think that's important to the people, or at least it was to me. You know, being on the Joint Transportation Committee in the MPO in Old Colony, we deal with that. And those are the things that are important to me, right? I think our schools are great. Even though Whitman Hanson says that they need more, they always say that, you know, everyone says they need more, but they're doing the best they can with what they've got. And I think they do a great job. South Shore Votech, we have an increase in budget of a little over $400,000, and we're able to cover that increase by out-of-district schools. Right, we're getting over $1 million from out-of-district schools. We have to charge them, I think, $17,000 a student. We got 64 students. Anyway, that being said, we're able to cover it, and the assessment to the town goes strictly on the enrollment and the state formula. But then we have Norfolk Aggie. That's like $28,000 a student plus transportation. I mean, that's something that we can't control. They say we're not going to deny someone going there. So I mean, it's kind of, those are kind of the tough things to deal with. But I think that if you're involved in doing a budget, you have to look at it and do the best you can with what you've got. It's that simple.
Okay. One of my 2 final questions is, I know you're an active member on social media, different platforms. Tell me how helpful or how it could hinder the town trying to get information out about its budget problems and seeking solutions. Do you feel that social media is a way to gain input from its residents, accurate information?
Well, there's always the naysayers, right? There's always the ones that are complaining. Somebody's parking on the street, we have a winter ban. It's on Facebook that there's a winter ban. You can't park overnight. You can't park on the sidewalk because we have walkers at school. Yet people will say, you know, I was parked on the sidewalk for an hour and I got a ticket. Well, that was an hour too long. You know, what don't you understand? You can't park on a sidewalk. I mean, I live off of School Street. They're always parked on the sidewalk. Now they're not, which is good. As far as parking off the street in the winter for plowing, I mean, it has to be and out of our town lot because the DPW needs to be able to do their job, you know? And people complain about snow being plowed in front of their driveway that they just shoveled out. Well, you know, you can't have the DPW jump out of his thing and replow it. You just can't do it. It is what it is, right? But social media, I like it. Some of them, we have a bunch of websites. A lot of people are grateful for what the town does, and I like to see that. If there's an issue that I see on that, then I can message the person who has an issue, like somebody had an issue with the train gate by the DPW on Essex Street. And I was able to see that and message them. And they told me what the problem was. I go to Old Colony Planning Council, I call them up. They have somebody that can talk to them. I call them. They call the MBTA in Boston. They come right down and check it and repair it. So it works good that way. I don't like to see the complainers on social network, and I don't answer the complainers on the network. I may message them to say, what can I do to help? You know, that way, you're always going to have the naysayers. But yeah, it can work to your advantage if you work it in a professional way.
Okay. During our conversation here today, and again, thank you, as Mr. Dan Salvucci has been our guest. Anything that I haven't asked, that we haven't touched upon regarding the budget and the process and your standing as a citizen here in this community, but you want to take a moment to kind of just touch upon?
Yes. The budget is always tough every year, right? As I said, if you don't have business coming into town, if you don't have the big business, the big box stores, it would be great if we had a Home Depot or something like that, you know? But we don't. That being said, yes. Is it going to be on the backs of the homeowners? Yes. There's lots of seniors. I'm a senior, right? My taxes went up. I think it went up about $200 for the year. So, you know, that's like $50 a quarter, right? Did that hurt? It goes up. I can remember the old days when I was lucky if I was paying $2,000 a year in taxes. Now I'm paying $4,500, right, as the time goes on. But you have to look at what we pay in taxes and what we're getting for it. And, you know, and I don't think I'd have it. I wish we had a big place like Hanover Mall, but we don't, right? So
to increase the tax rolls.
Right, to increase the tax roll. But so is it on the back of the homeowners? Yes. Do we have a good town because of what we have? We have a lot of volunteers, and we have a great town. We don't have the problems of a big city, but we still have problems that we have to deal with. But I still think it's a great town, and unfortunately, as I say, the cost is going to be on the homeowner's back. But look what you're getting for it. It's that simple.
Excellent. Well, that's all the time that we have here today for the program. And again, I want to thank you, Dan, for being here.
Absolutely, Kevin.
And I want to thank you for tuning in. As this program is designed to better inform the communities that we serve in regards to the budget process, whether, again, like I said, whether it's on the local level, when it comes to municipalities, right up to the state budget when they put it forth towards the end of June. We want to hear from you. Is the information, are the questions we're asking, are they valid? Do you want to have other things asked of the folks who we are having come in as stakeholders, the community leaders? Are we asking the right questions to better inform you as the voter in being able to solve any budget crisis, whether it's now or 10 years down the road? You have been watching By the Numbers. Until next time, have a good day.